Carter and I had only spoken a few times over the course of the past 3 years. We were both going off to college in 1 year, and this backpacking trip was the last hurrah for us. He walked a little less than a gate ahead of me. Never were we exactly side by side. Occasionally he would turn his head as to offer conversation, yet any exchange of words was overrun by the leaves rustling in the wind. It was in this manner that we entered the forest. The surrounding nature and the random blotches of snow, still standing from the winter, made this land more foreign. We were strangers. Naturally, we made camp in this forest of unknown, and we entered our tents. I sprawled down on the floor in a sleeping bag. Carter lay to my right. This was 3 years earlier, and we both breathed out restlessly in my basement on a night that seemingly transcended time. My basement filled itself with cool summer air that, if you were not careful, would steek up your spine and deliver a piercing chill. Wind scientifically does happen to move from areas of high pressure to those of low pressure. The air reeked of this wind tonight, of musty old costumes and clothes stored in miscellaneous drawers, of home sweet home. Conveniently, it happened to be my birthday. We're in high school now, Carter spoke softly. For Carter and me, the conversation never really stopped. Sure, we constantly would have to part ways to our respective houses, to our own lives, but those were only pauses. We would only pick up right where we left off. It didn't matter if we were geeking out about Harry Potter, or pulling pranks and telling the stupidest jokes, or maintaining our valuable reputation as the classiest goofballs ever conceived. We'd only pick up right where we left off. So, at 3 in the morning on this summer night of my birthday, our conversation roared through the otherwise silent air like a windy hurricane, and swept up every topic that meandered into our brain. We would jump recklessly into our worst fears, the thoughts that kept us up at night, the memories almost forgotten, the dreams and aspirations that couldn't be described to anyone else, and everything in between. Then, an hour later, we stood at the footsteps of our most menacing adventure yet, going to different high schools. We had been side by side for 14 years unfailingly, and we doubted that high school could ravage the friendship we had built. Snow nipped at my ankles, right at the small section not covered by socks, yet not protected by pants, as I traversed across the driveway of my friend's house. The date was in the winter, Carter's birthday. I rang the doorbell. A figure who looked like my best friend of 16 years answered the door. By all physical means, he was the same friend, yet something I could not identify was missing. He pushed my shoulder playfully, and for a few minutes Carter was right next to me again. He and I threw out a few dumb jokes, and then we walked down into his basement. He was gone and replaced by a dozen high school friends, people I had not met and would not meet again. To be fair, I had accumulated my share of friends in my high school career, but standing next to him in a circle of strangers was uncomfortable. There were perhaps 12 teenagers total. No names or characters stood out all too much. The ensuing hour was as blurred as the people who occupied it. There was a constant stream of conversation pouring down like the snow outside, but all of it floated to the ground without any sustenance. I stood there trying to take it all in. Not a snowflake of language escaped my mouth. I looked around and could tell I was lost in a house I had visited countless times in the past. As I left, there was no familiar goodbye, just a see ya, as I trudged out into the cold night. We woke up groggily for the last day of our hike. The morning was still, and we packed our bags with a certain sluggishness. Today we would have to cover the last pass, which was the highest in elevation. Carter and I, naturally more athletic, or perhaps just younger than the rest of the company, rushed ahead within the first half hour. The summer sun took its time getting ready on this day. It was noon before the first rays of heat snuck on the dusty, rugged path. The sun was not necessarily a source of warmth on this surprisingly cold day. There was laughter abounding throughout the maroon bells. Carter had perfected his Arnold Schwarzenegger accent, and when put in combination with my Michael Caine impersonation, a mighty dew of slapstick humor would dominate nature for the next few hours. At that point, there was no time, no flowers decorating the fields, no path traversing through the land. At that point, there was only the laughter of two teenage boys cackling like hyenas, the atmosphere of a terrible joke. Hilarious but terribly stupid nonetheless. The general feeling that stimulates the sense of home and comfort. Then we hit the base of the mountain. Jokes are hard to make when you're struggling for air or aching down to the femur of your leg. Every ounce of our concentration focused on getting to the top of this last mountain. When Carter and I reached the top, we sat on the rocks, catching our breath. The summer sun now covered the valley below us. We stared into the sky as a cool breeze found its way to the top of the mountain. Carter turned to me and he laughed. We made it. We made it to the top of the last mountain. We didn't need to say anything else.